Hey there, Twin Cities Church. I thought I would try something new and post an introductory video to the Habakkuk series that we're going to start on Sunday. Habakkuk was a prophet in Judah, the southern tribes of the nation of Israel. While the book of Habakkuk addresses sins that we have seen in Amos and in Joel, such as idolatry, child sacrifice, human trafficking, economic and political oppression, murder, and sexual immorality, it's quite a list. Habakkuk was not written as a message for God's people to turn away from these things. Assyria had already taken the northern tribes of Israel into exile and resettled those lands. Judah was left, and its fate was sealed due to the deeds of Manasseh, the most evil and violent king in Judah's history. Judah's trajectory of evil could only be stopped by one thing: the judgment of God. Rather than a warning to all of Judah, Habakkuk is a message for the righteous few who must endure a culture of evil with no hope in its end except for the coming judgment of God, which sounds just as bad, if not worse, than the present state of internal corruption and brutality that Habakkuk witnessed. So what does Habakkuk have for us? As one scholar calls the book a record of Habakkuk's spiritual odyssey, Habakkuk is for us a guide on how to wrestle and engage with God in our circumstances, in order to find lasting and steadfast peace, even when our circumstances are at their worst and there is little hope in sight. The book reflects Habakkuk's bold and passionate pursuit of God, which began in a state of despair, but in the end shows a transformed prophet at peace and ready for the worst to come. Are we at the same place as the ancient culture of Judah? No, thankfully. But there are enough signs in our own world that could make us wonder about our own futures and the futures of our kids. Our political and economic systems seem to be increasingly favorable to the rich and powerful, leaving the weak, poor, and marginalized distant and powerless while suffering under the weight of progress. Global institutions seem to be less and less effective in addressing the world's injustices. Western culture grows more secular and is increasingly captivated by money, pleasure, and sex. Whether we are suffering directly or indirectly from these or other sources, there are realities in our world that could easily overwhelm us and cause us to despair. But God does not leave us to these ends. He gives us Himself and calls us to find peace through knowing Him and being confident of His eternal purposes to establish His kingdom on earth and once and for all eradicate evil and oppression from the face of the earth. How do we develop this kind of peace and confidence? That's what the book is all about. So here are my goals for the series. Number 1, to deepen us in a personal knowledge of God and His purposes that energizes us in our pursuit of Him and the fulfillment of His purposes in the world. Number 2, to expand and deepen our prayer and worship lives into persistent, active, and energetic expressions of our faith in and devotion to God. Number 3, to provide a more robust context for suffering in our lives, leading to greater faith in God, more purposeful suffering, and a more steadfast emotional life. And number 4, to strengthen us in our use of the arts to express the realities of our suffering and our faith in and devotion to God. I have included links on this post to books and resources that I have found helpful as I have studied Habakkuk and prepared for this series. Check them out. I'm sure that you'll enjoy them. I also think that your kids will appreciate the videos. They're pretty entertaining in some ways. That's it. I would really appreciate your prayers as I prepare for and preach this series. I would also encourage you to be in prayer for the entire church so that this series contributes to our passionate pursuit of God and His purposes. Hope to see you on Sunday. Thanks.